Now we are looking at aggregate supply, okay? The short run aggregate supply. So according to macroeconomics, in the short run, wages and prices tend to be fixed, okay? Meaning, remember, where you're working, you have contracts, okay? So if the price level goes up for goods and services, you cannot go to your boss tomorrow and say, sir, since the price level has increased, I need a salary increment. Okay. You have to wait for your contract to first pass so that you can negotiate a new contract. Okay. So sticky price, sticky wages, and also sticky prices also. If price levels of goods and services go up today, okay, places like restaurants, you find produce a new menu. This menu cost to produce new menus and new catalogs, it's going to be expensive for them. So the prices are not just going to adjust just there and then for that restaurant if price level goes up. Okay. They will adjust after some time, after the restaurant, whatever businesses that are selling goods and services, after some time passes, they are going to adjust to the price level. But they're not just going to adjust there and then. Okay, because for some businesses, to the consumer, that will look unfair to you. Okay, today price levels have gone up, and today I just found, oh, the price has changed. Now I'm charging you this amount. Some consumers might not find that fair. And also menu costs to produce new menus, new catalogs, and all that stuff. It's expensive for a business. So prices tend to be sticky in the short run. They are adjust later on. Okay. So that's what the short run is about. Sticky wages and sticky prices. Okay. And just like our supply curve in microeconomics, you have an upward sloping graph like this. Okay. Where you have price level here and real GDP output here. Okay. So remember, as we said, like in microeconomics, if the price level of goods or services increases, businesses tend to produce more, all right, so that they can maximize on the profits. Okay. And if we look at these sticky wages, let me give an illustration of how sticky wages can help out a business produce more. Okay, let's look at this illustration here. All right, we have our cost of wages. All right, and we're going to say it's going to stay fixed. Okay, and we're going to see what happens when price level increases and this business increases its quantity, its production. Okay. So initially, if the price level is 2 kwacha, let's say this business is selling a good, the price level is 2 kwacha, they're able to produce 1 million units. In terms of revenue, 2 times 1 million, they make revenue of 2 million kwacha. Wages is 500,000 for this business. So if you remove the wages from the revenue, the profit is 1.5 million kwacha. Now we're going to see when the price increases and the wages still stay fixed. Okay. Price has gone up to 2.5 kwacha. Okay. You are producing and you increase production from 1 million units to 2 million units. What revenue are you getting? 2.5 times 2 million, 5 million kwacha. If you remove the wages, which are still fixed at 500,000, your profit is 4.5 million kwacha. Let's say the price now increases to 5 kwacha. And wages, let's say wages are still fixed. Okay. This business can increase production to 5 million units. Okay. Revenue 5 times 5 million, 25 million units. We take out the wages, 24.5 million kwacha. Okay. So this, we're just basing this on the short run. Okay. Because eventually people's contracts are going to expire and people are now going to request salary increments. Okay. So in the short run, businesses can take advantage of these fixed and sticky wages to increase production so that they make more revenue and more profit. Any questions? So at high price levels, companies will produce more. At lower price levels, companies will tend to produce less. And due to sticky wages, also a company cannot again also lower your salary. Okay, they cannot lower your salary. All they can do is lay you off if times become hard. Okay, they will never lower your salary. The worst they can do is just lay off workers. So we're going to look at the shifters of aggregate supply. Okay. Number one, you've got actions of government. Taxes, subsidies, quotas, tariffs, government health regulations, not health, environmental regulations. Okay. Right now, colleagues, I hear the Kafue River has been polluted. It's, it's over polluted. I don't know which mine has polluted. I've forgotten which mine has polluted that. Now imagine if government tells that mine, clean up the pollution. Imagine that expense that that company is going to incur. Okay. And imagine if government tells them you have to change your ways of production so that you stop releasing pollutants into the river. So meaning if they have to change the ways of production, it means they have to produce now in a cleaner and environmental friendly way. Now usually and unfortunately, the clean and the environmental way are expensive for companies. It's easy for a company you produce, get rid of the waste and just forget about it like that. Okay, but to produce in an environmental friendly way is going to be expensive. Okay, that's why certain companies, if you find if it's whenever they come into a country, okay, that company has got a lot of leverage on the government because those companies are employing people and they're helping the economy. Now, if the government starts putting strict regulations on them, those companies tend to go away. And when they go away, find another country is going to be at a loss. So it's kind of tricky for governments, especially here in Africa, to impose strict regulations on companies. Okay. So government regulations, especially on being environmental friendly and pollution. Okay. If government is strict on such policies and regulations, you find that would be expensive for businesses. Okay. The mines or any other manufacturers, that becomes expensive. And whenever the costs become expensive for a business, what do? Either they reduce production or they go away. Or they just leave. Okay. Even taxes. If government is imposing high taxes on businesses, bus- businesses don't tend to stay. But if there are lower taxes on the businesses are going to be there. Okay. If government is offering subs, so here it's more about how cost of production get affected, basically. Okay. If these actions of government increase cost of production, so that the business will lower production, okay, by laying off workers, okay, laying off workers and lowering output, or the businesses will eventually just go. But if the actions of government are making the cost of production relatively cheap, businesses will tend now to even produce more, okay, and basically stay within that nation. If government is imposing tariffs, like how we are seeing what is going on right now with these tariff wars, okay, the problem with tariff wars, okay, tariffs, especially for businesses that rely on imports. Okay, your raw materials are coming from another country, and now there's a tax put on on your raw materials. It means it will be expensive to bring those raw materials into for your company to use. Okay, and if you can't source those raw materials anywhere else, okay, you're just relying on raw materials from another country. Now tariffs have been imposed. You find you as a business now, your productivity and your output will suffer due to those tariffs. Okay. And if the business, remember what happens with tariffs, the businesses pass on those costs eventually direct to the customer. So you will find now when you produce as a business, what you're producing, you will now make it expensive for customers. That's why in tariff wars, no country usually comes out the winner, because all in all, the expenses will come down to you, the consumer. Your goods are going to now become expensive because the cost of production for businesses are becoming expensive. So they need to increase prices so that they stay profitable. So that all directly transfers down to the consumer. Okay. So tariffs, I know they're used for helping protect local industries. Okay, but at times it really has a bad effect on especially economies that are heavily reliant on imports, like Zambia, who imports a lot. Okay. So yeah, tariffs, quotas, even quotas, restriction on the amount of goods coming in the country. If your business relies on raw materials from another country and government puts a restriction on those raw materials coming in, okay, it means as a business your output is going to be affected. And to stay profitable, if you're producing less, you try now to increase prices. And when you increase prices, that passes down to the customers. Okay. So these actions of governments, the tariffs, quotas, regulations, subsidies, all of them can affect the aggregate supply within a nation. Because on the aggregate supply side, we're looking at the producers, people who are producing and selling. Aggregate demand was mostly just on expenditure by the buyer section of the spectrum. Okay. Now here we're looking at the seller section of the spectrum. Okay. Yes. Another factor that can cause actions of government, technology. Better technology, you can produce more. Okay. Not great technology, you can produce, but the one who has got technology, equipment, and the new latest stuff, they will outproduce you. Okay. So if majority of businesses, manufacturing businesses within a nation have got the most advanced technology, okay, the best technology that there is, you find output is going to be good, okay, because the technology is helping them produce more. Then another shifter, you've got the price of inputs. This is the price of raw materials and price of basically labor. Okay. Raw materials, RM, raw materials, and also labor. As stated earlier on, if the price of the raw materials that you use as a business, if the price of those raw materials go up, it means it's either you now buy less of those raw materials, and if you buy less of those raw materials, you produce less of those raw materials, less of your finished product. If workers are demanding higher wages, okay, because wages form a big cost for businesses. That's why you see a lot of companies like to set up factories in countries where the labor laws are not strict, because they know cheap labor means more profits, especially for businesses where you have to hire thousands of workers. Okay? If your business you've just got 5 workers, they ask for an increment. Maybe it might not really affect your supply or whatever. But if you've got 1,000 workers or 10,000 workers and they are asking for wage increases, wage increments, as a business, that would be now expensive. So meaning you would either have to, if you increase the wages, you also have to now, you can't hire everybody though. You have to lay off some workers, and maybe those who remain, maybe you can keep them happy and increase their wages. But it now means you've got less employees. Less employees, more idle capital. More idle capital and machinery, less productivity. If you're not using any machinery or capital, then less workers, less productivity still. Okay. Yes. So if raw materials go up, price of raw materials go up, wages also people are demanding higher wages, where government imposes a high minimum wage. Okay. Then there you see now businesses product output now gets affected. Okay. Some businesses even tend to disappear from the place because Then you want to go where they can have cheap labor and make more profits. Then another, so we've got price of inputs, actions of government, technology, and you've got externalities, negative and positive. Externalities. So when we talk about externalities, this can be like, especially like for the negative ones, this can be like pandemics, corona. You saw what happened when we had corona. People had to be on lockdown. So it means in factories, some factories were closed, or if the factories were still working, maybe there were not as many workers in there. Okay, so pandemics can affect uh, global productivity. You've also got natural disasters. If your country is hit by a natural disaster and the factories get destroyed, it means productivity will be destroyed or will be affected. You have a tsunami or an earthquake, or let's say what other tornado, typhoons, and factories get destroyed. Production will be halted for a while. Even wars. If you have a war, it means people run away. So you won't have any factories operating because people are looking for the safety. No one wants to be killed. So um, yeah, you have what droughts. We had a drought the previous years. Remember the drought we experienced? We saw now what happened to now because of that drought. Maize became expensive, other raw materials also became expensive, and the price of goods eventually also went up just because of a drought. Or if, even is it, yeah, droughts, famines, these calamities can affect productivity within a nation. Those are the negative ones. Okay. Positive ones, example, if you have good weather, you have bumper harvests. Okay, you have good weather, it means farmers can grow in abundance, right? When they grow in abundance, things become cheap. So remember this mnemonic, PAIT, shifters for aggregate supply. PAIT. P, price of inputs, raw materials and labor. A, actions of government, subsidies, taxes, quotas, tariffs, regulations. T, technology. E, externalities, positive and negative. Okay, these are what will cause either the aggregate supply curve to shift to the right, which is an increase. Okay, if you have cheap labor, cheap raw materials, few government taxes, subsidies, better technology. Okay, but then if this short run aggregate supply shifts to the left like this, it means production has reduced, lowered. Okay, so like high prices of raw materials, high wages, high taxes, quotas, tariffs, and maybe some of these negative externalities have occurred. Okay, and then remember, in the short run, wages are sticky, okay, due to your contracts. Prices also tend to be sticky due to high menu costs and also customer perception. Other businesses price, if the price of other things go up tomorrow, they'll even tell you no, today it's this price. Okay. But other businesses, established businesses, okay, if price levels are going up, they won't just increase their prices today. Okay. Like Hungry Lion, if price level goes up tomorrow and everything, they won't just increase just there today and okay, our prices have increased. Okay. Some time will pass and then you'll see next time now you go, you find a new menu now at Hungry Lion now with the new adjusted prices. Okay. Yes.